Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 77 Group YouTube channel. My name is Mitch Goddard, co-founder and principal of the 77 Group. And today we're talking leadership, and I'm going to cover from chapter 25 of my book, Get Organized and Be Prepared.
Well, and I'm Frank Leone. I'm Mitch's partner, and you know me as Mr. Odd Guy. I show up on the odd weeks, and Mitch is Mr. Even Guy. He shows up on the even weeks, and this is episode number 14. So it's Mitch's week. But again, to very briefly put it in context, what we are trying to do is alternate weeks. I have a book out on effective communication. I believe the title should be up on the top of the screen right now. And Mitch will soon be coming out with a book on effective leadership, and that title should be up on the screen now as well. And we're alternating weeks, taking one chapter from each book each week, companion document for those of you that have my book and or will have Mitch's book as well, or if you just want to go through the complimentary training that we're doing here on YouTube, we welcome that wholeheartedly as well. A couple things. One is we do encourage you to ask questions. We have a special feature where we go back and pick one question every week that's come in and acknowledge the person that asked the question and try to do the best we can to answer that question. So please keep the questions coming. We've gotten some very good questions, either in the comments section or in direct emails we get from people. So please keep that coming. Please like us. That's fair. I understand from the gods of YouTube land that likes are very important to get. And please subscribe to us. We're very pleased with the number of subscribers we have so far. Last I looked, it was in the 300s somewhere. And by the time this is out, hopefully it may even be hitting 400 or more. So we're very pleased with our subscriber base and encourage that as well. So let me turn it back to Mitch, who will now discuss this week's topic. Mitch?
Hey, thanks, Frank. And just to reiterate from chapter 25 of my upcoming book, 77 Principles, Tips, and Takeaways for Exceptional Leaders. Today we're covering why it's important to get organized and be prepared. And you know, Benjamin Franklin, and I know a lot of people have used this quote, but I think it originally goes all the way back to him. He said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing for failure. And I would have to agree with that. Most people would. You know, and he also said that for every minute spent organizing, an hour is earned. Wow, that is a 60 to 1 when you think about it, return on your time, or ROT as we would call it. And being prepared is so critical. Getting organized and staying ahead of the power curve is so critical for all leaders, but especially for young leaders, newly appointed or newly assigned leaders, when they can hit the ground running because they've taken the time to get themselves organized, understand what the mission is, and be prepared to take on the day or whatever lies before them. They're going to really come out far better than they would than if they just hope to wing it or try to just get through it based on their guile or savvy. And I think back, and I write about this in the book, because all leaders have eyes on them. It's very critical to instill confidence in the people you lead, not by being some fumbling, bumbling person trying to play catch up. And I recall back maybe 7 years ago, say 2013, a young up-and-comer, I was in healthcare at the time, was a pretty strong candidate for a clinical manager position. And this person had all the great skills of a back office clinician, and was a leader amongst her peers. But when she was basically handed the keys to the clinic, and I assigned some established clinic leaders to help shepherd her along, do some mentoring, and help her stay ahead as she was taking on a lot more responsibility. She didn't adapt to that. She didn't welcome that, and instead she did try to wing it. And over time, not only the weight of the new day was weighing her down, but also the baggage from the day before that, and the week before, and so far back. And over time, she was just getting consumed by this job and was unable to meet deadlines, unable to get to meetings on time, unable really to do her job. And before long after that, obviously the other classic signs of being defeated, not showing up to work, calling out a lot because she didn't want to face the mess that she helped create. She was letting her staff down, her peers down, and ultimately was in a tragic career death spiral where ultimately she had to edit herself out and leave the job. So getting organized, staying prepared, very critical. And let me lead off with my first tip of the week, and that is to invest the time necessary to properly prepare. And really just a fundamental disciplined approach to knowing what's going to be required of you, doing your best to understand the environment that you're going to be working in, the resources available to you, and take the extra time. Use as much time as you need to give yourself the best chance to be successful, to give the people you lead the best chance to be successful. And hopefully you'll not only be well prepared and ready for whatever comes down the pike, but when those surprises pop up, much like we talked a few weeks ago with improvise, adapt, and overcome, you'll have the bandwidth remaining in your head to prepare, or not prepare, but to react to those situations with a clear head versus one that's just cluttered with yesterday's or the day before's responsibilities that you still haven't gotten done. So invest the time necessary to properly prepare, helps you stay ahead of the game, and helps your team feel confident in you as their leader.
Mitch, let's drill down a second on the whole notion of preparing. It would seem there's two different categories here. Category number one is preparing for the issue at hand, coming with the necessary information, understanding fallback options, et cetera, et cetera. But it also seems that concurrently, the preparation should also involve anticipating potential complications and being prepared to address those complications when they ultimately inevitably do. With regard to the second, preparing for the unanticipated, can you give a very practical example of something that somebody can do in order to prepare for something that could be a curveball that might just lie ahead?
Well, and I've identified the art of anticipation and reading tea leaves and knowing what's coming as tip number 4 today. But I'll briefly touch on that because it's so important. As you asked for a tangible example, I think that I know for myself, one of the things that I would do every day as I would make my rounds with my lieutenants, I would ask, hey, what's going on? What are the kind of things that I need to know or that we need to be ready for to react in case we need to? So what's the temperature out there? What's going on in the environment that didn't make the official memo that we need to be prepared for? So just use the resources and the people you were smart enough to surround yourself with to help you get prepared for the unforeseen.
That's right. It seems to me that it really brings into play uh, a viewpoint of somebody that knows you and your objectives, but also can react as an outside person, but they're on your side, so that they can, hear what you're planning to address, and you can basically, nothing's as good as just asking somebody forthright, what, what do you think? How do you think they might react to this? What curveballs do you think I might get if I pose this? And
Yep.
see what they have to say. It doesn't have to be one person. You can ask a couple people depending upon the importance of the issue at hand. So very good. Tip number 2, please.
Tip number 2, budget your time effectively. So one of the common mistakes that we see young, inexperienced leaders or people in in a role of responsibility is that they bite off more than they can chew, basically, and through ambition and a will to really make a difference. Sometimes they find themselves a little overwhelmed by some of those unforeseen things. Again, if they're kind of new in the environment or new in the role, they still need some time to really look at the full scope of what's being asked of them and what the job entitles. So always best to kind of dial that back a little bit and budget your time effectively, giving yourself plenty of cushion, but you still want to obviously, tend to everything you're responsible for. But as people start clamoring for your time, prioritize. And maybe not today, but let's get together in the morning where I've got some time to discuss something with someone who's requesting my opinion. Just don't overburden yourself. Certainly not at the beginning. Budget your time effectively so you've got the time to react. You've got the time to be prepared, get organized, so you can go after the bigger picture items.
How do you gracefully say no to somebody?
Great question. And I think it really comes down to sharing as much need to know information as you can so they have a good understanding of the bigger picture. For instance, someone might come to me, and in fact, I can tell you several times where someone needed or requested my presence, my time, wanted to pick my brain, whatever. And believe me, as a leader, I always want to give that time. It just might not be in that moment. So it's okay to very respectfully say, hey, listen, I've got some time pressure items going on, or I've got some, other things that I need to prepare for that require me right now. This sounds like something we can maybe talk about later today or in the morning. Is that acceptable to you? I think most reasonable people will understand the bigger picture, understand the dynamics at play, and would be willing to meet you halfway on some of those things.
As you were saying that, Mitch, a thought came to my mind, sort of reflects back to my practices during when I had my company, is that you don't always have to get back to the person verbally. So something that I would often say is, listen, I'm up to my ears this week, but I want to address your issue as soon as possible. Shoot me an email and I will get back to you within the next 12 hours. Does a couple things. One is you're managing the time investment then. If you want to give them 30 seconds, you give them 30 seconds. And the other thing is you can squeeze it in any time it works for you. It can be 9 o'clock at night at home in your home office.
Right.
So you can switch to another modality and frame it in a way that you're actually respecting them by saying, I want to get this answered as quickly as possible. Let's do it this way.
Exactly right. And that's a great way to really make it a well-rounded approach to saying no in the moment, but still honoring their request by fulfilling it.
Yeah, saying no without any wiggle room can be disrespectful, and we want to avoid that.
Amen. Amen.
Tip number 3.
All right, tip number 3, know the resources available to you. And it kind of touched on this with tip number 1. As you're investing the time to prepare, know what kind of resources are available to you and to your entity, your department. Could be partners and stakeholders, could be data, could be human resources, manpower, those types of things that as you properly prepare, you can factor all these different resources into your game plan, knowing that, again, contingencies are going to pop up, but know what kind of resources you have available to you is going to enable you to be able to be organized, be prepared, and gives you a better chance to take on whatever may pop up. And if nothing pops up, then it's clear sailing. You execute your game plan and you keep running.
Right. One thing that I'm thinking of, I'd be interested in your opinion on it, is that the universe of resources that you're drawing off of does not have to come out of what you already own.
Mm-hmm.
That in this day and age, you can go on to Google and type in, how do I, and almost put any 5 words after that and get a reasonably cogent, broad-based response. So that, in my mind, and again, interested to hear what you would have to say, Mitch, is that if I'm preparing for something, it doesn't, a minute, type it into Google and see what comes up. You may get something really fascinating. And it may be something that you can have in your back pocket. And after a meeting or after, whether it's one-on-one group, say, just send everybody a link to this particular resource. Say, hey, I found something really germane to what we're dealing with today. But again, what are your thoughts on that? Relying on, a fresh search to information.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And in fact, I comment on that in this chapter of my book. There are, as you said, keep it in your back pocket. Literally, your cell phone makes you a resource library that's on the move all the time. You don't have to stop, run back to the library, run back to your office, pull it up on your computer. Cell phones, tablets are such a great resource for information. Like you said, Google something to whatever the topic is, get a little educated on it. If something is, as you say, germane to the greater topic, well, now you've got something to speak from. You've got some added knowledge that you can instantly share with the people that you're working with. So great point, and very useful. So use your cell phone, use your tablets. Nothing but information out there. That's the world we live in right now.
Absolutely. Tip number 4, Mitch.
All right, so getting back to anticipation, anticipate, read the tea leaves, and know what's coming. And again, just to touch on it, as you use your resources, as you check the temperature of the work environment, and understand what kind of pressures and the people that you're working with. Not just the people right in your department or within the walls of your company, but also the other partners, collaborators, and stakeholders on the outside, knowing what their preferences are, knowing what the demands on them are as well. Anything you can do to anticipate not only what they may need, but what the greater mission might need in order to be successful. Using those resources, talking to your people, exercising a deep dive into the data is going to help you understand. See, all of that gives what most leaders and business people crave every day, and that is a measure of predictability. And when you've got that going, you've got some measure of useful predictability, then you are far better positioned to be ahead of the power curve, on top of it, and ready to execute at any given time.
Okay, very good. And tip number 5.
Tip number 5, avoid self-reliance. Again, touched on this in my opening story about the young clinic manager who had great clinical skills and good good rapport, with the most part, with with the people they worked with. And once they elevated into a leadership role and a management role, they figured, oh, I'll just lean on all the skills that I had walking into this, and I'll be able to wing it. And the problem with that is, especially for new leaders, new managers, newly appointed leaders, there is a whole category of unknown out there that can come rise up and catch you off guard, catch you by surprise. And if you don't take the time to get yourself organized, you don't take the time to get yourself prepared, and you're counting on your ability to wing it, and just lean on the skills you used to use in the past, then you're setting yourself up for failure, because if you don't know what you don't know, then you can't prepare for it. That's why you got to dig in and find out all that you can, so you're as ready as you can be to move this forward. So
Okay.
the over-reliance on yourself.
What's always useful at this point is if you could just sort of restate briefly the 5 tips, and maybe we can roll them on the screen for the viewers.
Absolutely. So tip number 1, invest the time necessary to properly prepare. Tip number 2, budget your time effectively. Number 3, know the resources that are available to you. And number 4, anticipate, read the tea leaves, and know what's coming. And finally, tip number 5, avoid over-reliance on yourself.
Okay, Mitch, anything you want to add to this week's topic?
Nope, just to reiterate those 5 tips, any one or all of them can help make you an exceptional leader.
Okay, and before we get back to Mitch to hear what the question of the week is, and hear his personal final thought, a couple comments from my side. First of all, next week's topic, and I'll be speaking next week, that'll be episode number 15, is called Qualify, Always Qualify. And what I'll be talking about is the need to nuance things and not to see everything in black and white, and to qualify things and give yourself wiggle room. It's a fascinating topic in an area that many would-be communicators have a hard time with. So important issue there. Then just some reminders again. Again, please subscribe. We've been thrilled, very, very pleased with the number of subscribers, and please join us. In that way, you'll be alerted whenever new content is posted. Secondly, please like us if you like us. If you don't like us, don't like us. And the third thing is, please leave comments and questions. We really value that as well. So Mitch, back to you. Do you have a question this week that you wish to respond to?
Absolutely. Thanks, Frank. Our question winner from episode 10, which we covered from chapter 50 of my book, and the chapter is entitled Adapt, Improvise, Overcome. Jeff W. wrote me a private email over to Mitch at 77group.com, 77grp.com. And Jeff asks, can you further expand on the difference between a calm versus a fiery leader? And this stems off of the question that you asked during that episode, Frank. And I think what it really boils down to, I expressed that I like to keep things calm. I don't want my team to get too unnecessarily excited or stressed out or anything. But then, as Frank pointed out, the history is full of stories of fiery leaders that are really big motivators by expressing their emotion and the fire that burns within their desire to lead. And I think there is room for both, obviously. History tells us that there are examples of success from both sides. And I think it really boils down to this. As a leader, know your audience, know the people you're leading, and have a real good grip and understanding on what it is, which approach is going to build the most confidence so that they can stay focused on the mission and go out and perform. You know, situations can dictate, and the personality of the people you lead can dictate, as well as thought leaders. The topic that they may be expressing their opinion on could also dictate. So at the end of the day, take the tactic that's going to build the most confidence, and that is going to give you the best chance to achieve your desired outcome. And with that, Jeff, I want to thank you for sending in your question. I've got your email, and I'll be reaching out to you to set up our phone call so we can explore a little deeper into whatever it is you want to talk about. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, and I want to throw in a brief thought on that as well. Something I would like to add from my perspective is to also be certain to be yourself as you're assuming where you want to be on the calm to fiery continuum. You know, if you're Newt Rockney, go ahead and scream and yell and kick garbage cans. If you're Bill Belichick, calmly stand on the sidelines and let the game plan move forward. To me, and I would think you would probably agree, Mitch, to me, you can't force it. You got to be who you are.
Amen. Amen to that. Yeah, because people sense dynamics and they'll know when you're faking it. So absolutely, be who you are, and use the tactic that you're best suited for.
Okay, and you want to close out with your personal thought of the week?
Yeah, happy to do so, Frank. And real simply, you know, as we make our way through life, we encounter people online, during the shut-in, out in public, on telephone calls, going to the market, whatever. And today's closing thought is that you never know. You never really know, unless somebody is good enough to point it out to you. But you never really know how your actions, how you behave, and how you interact with people, and your behavior or words at any given time are going to have an effect on others. You know, it might just be flashing a smile at a stranger that might give them a little boost of encouragement. It might be giving a nod to someone at the grocery store as a show of respect, that might lift their spirits a little bit. It might be an encouraging word to a friend that you didn't know was down about something that you're saying, you know, that you might just discard otherwise. The point is, what we say, what we do, how we behave, how we present ourselves somewhere may or may not affect somebody in a positive way, and conversely could affect somebody in a negative way. So my personal thought is, be aware of that, and do all you can to share uplifting things, good and gracious things that are going to be encouraging to others, because you just never know when you're going to lift somebody's spirits and make their day for them. Back to you, Frank.
Okay, well, you know, excellent comments as well, as always, Mitch, so we appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody, as we do every week. We wouldn't be doing this if there weren't any viewers, so thank you for being out there and supporting us. And, you know, our fervent hope is that everybody walks away with at least something that they can use to enhance their leadership skills, which are critical, and their communication skills, which are critical. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.